Hey guys, this is Mr. Reece, and I am just here to help you review for your AP World exam that's coming up. So today we're going to be talking about the out of Africa theory and the migrations that actually occurred after that. As you can see, I kind of have a map behind me that I traced that was done a little bit ago. So when it comes to this, we're going to be talking about the out of Africa theory, and the out of Africa theory is exactly how it sounds. It is that every person around the whole entire world is actually from Africa, specifically this big purple dot that is in Africa, as we know, and then everyone migrates from there. So one of the first migrations that we actually get is actually south of Africa, and this is where we start getting the different areas of the African kingdoms that we're going to get later on, and the different people, and that is the Bantu migrations. As you know, this is where we get a lot of different services when it comes to trade, commerce, and specifically languages. This is where I talked about the Swahili languages. This is where I talked about Tosa and all those different languages that we occur there. So that's the Bantu migrations, and that is where we go south. Now, not everyone actually goes south. We also get people who are going to go north, and specifically northeast. And this is where we get our first stop, which is the Nile River Delta. Now, as you can see, I kind of have a little blue right there. This is where we start getting the Nile River Delta civilization, and later, as we know, are the Egyptians, where they start creating hieroglyphs and where they start creating different big architecture pieces such as pyramids. This is also where we start getting the first polytheistic religions as well. This is where religion starts to take a little bit of a foothold. Now, the one that everyone knows about is our next stop here, and that is these two rivers, which are the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. And as you know, I'm about to start talking about Mesopotamia. Now, when it comes to Mesopotamia, some of the big things that you do need to know, this is a big spot on the actual AP exam, and that is the Code of Hammurabi, which is that first law code system that we talked about, and also a creation story such as the Epic of Gilgamesh. And that is all located in Mesopotamia. We also get different social structures and different political structures. This is where we start getting a monarchy as well. So that's where we get the migration happening there. Now, our next stop after that actually is going to split off into two different areas. And those two different areas are in the Mohenjo-Daro or the Harappan civilization in India. And as you know, in India, there is a nice little mountain range that is going to protect them for many years, and that is the Himalayan mountain range. So I'm actually going to draw that right here. So this is where we get the Himalayan mountain range. Now, on top of that, we also get another branch that's going to settle right in this little area of like Eurasia area, and that's where we get the Aryans. So as you know, the Aryans are actually going to invade south of India, and that's where we start getting the first ever caste system when it comes to the Hindu caste system. Okay, and they're going to be the ones that are going to do that, mostly for oppressive reasons, and having them actually be at the very top of this food chain when it comes to social structure. Now, they don't just sit there and go these separate ways. There's also migration that happens from the Tigris and Euphrates, and that is when we get into what's later known as ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and that is where we get different places such as the Minoans. This is where we get the Phoenicians. This is also where we start getting the Mycenaean Peninsula right here, which is going to be modern day Greece. Okay, so big things with Phoenicians is that that's where our current alphabet currently comes from, and also the fact that the Minoans, as we know, are sea travelers. We kind of have a little hint by saying Minnows, Minoans. That's a really easy way to remember that. So when it comes to this, these Aryans are actually going to move into the area that is going to be modern day China. Okay, and when it comes to modern day China, the big river system that we know of that's really, really important to know about is the Hoang-He River, or also known as the Yellow River. And so this is where we start getting a civilization that is starting In China, this is going to lead to the Shang dynasty. This is where we start getting our dynastic system. Now, many people will branch off and go into Russia. That's where we're going to talk about a little bit later. But the big thing is that what a lot of people don't realize is that there is a solid land bridge 8,000 years ago, or even before that, that ends up allowing us to go to the other side of this whole entire map. And that's where we get the Americas. And this is where we get more migration. So this is where we start getting people to migrate into the Americas, as we know. And this is where we start getting Native Americans. This is where we start getting many of those people. Okay, and so down here is when we start getting into the Chauvin, the Toltec, the Olmec, and the Aztec and Mayans. Okay, and as we know, they do have social structures. They do have the different religious centers, such as ziggurats, as you guys have already researched a little bit more about. Now, one that I did not spend a whole lot of time on, and it's because it's not something that is going to be very prevalent, but it might be something that you might get. And that is the other migration pattern that comes down into not only these islands, but also into Australia. Okay? And when we get these people that go into Australia, those are called the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, or the Aborigines. Okay, and those people, the big thing with them is that they are isolated to the rest of the world until James Cook sails and discovers Australia. And that's where the British actually realize that there are these people that are just indigenous to those, or to Australia alone, and that they are very primitive. Okay, and this is where we start getting the clash between modern day, what we call modern day in period 5, and the ancient, more period 1 people. So that's basically the migration of the world done, and this is one thing that is going to be very prevalent when it comes to your AP exam. Let me know if you have any questions.